Simple as this.
Hey KW community, thanks for joining us today. We're very excited to firstly say happy birthday to Justine, which we mentioned yesterday. Family and friends who are watching, hello to my boys, but you can only watch the intro because this one isn't for you. And everyone else, KW community, we're really happy to welcome James from Olds Young Distillery today, and he's going to be making you a few drinks, and he is also going to be telling you a bit about gin. So let's welcome him now. Please write down some questions because we'll do a Q&A at the end, and we, for the moment, let's just welcome James.
Me. Welcome. Hi everyone. This is the first time I've done this, so this will be fun. We're going to be talking a little bit about the history of gin making. We're going to be making 3 cocktails. We're going to talk about different styles of gin from around the world. We're going to talk about some different types of gin, and all the way we're going to make some drinks with it. So theoretically this is going to happen in half an hour. I don't think Kitchen Warehouse know what's hit them. This is going to go for a while. So there's a couple of things you need to know. First thing is, I guess I should introduce myself. It's James Young from Olds Youngs. I am the old and the young in Olds Youngs. So I have had the distillery for coming up on 4 years. We launched on Friday the 13th of March back in 2016. So we are coming up to our 4th birthday. What we're going to do, as I said, we're going to start with a tiny, really quick history of gin. So hopefully you've got a little gin and tonic in front of you. If you haven't, quickly run away, grab yourself one, make a gin and tonic, sit down, get comfortable. I'm going to take you back to the 1700s when the Dutch were the first people who used juniper berries to flavour what was then a thing called their malt wine. It's like a white whiskey or a raw whiskey or an unaged whiskey. So if anyone's tried moonshine before, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a very good reason this stuff gets put in barrels. So the Dutch were the first people to use juniper to flavour that. Now back then, politics of the time, don't go to sleep, politics of the time was very fluid. So we had the situation that the English and the Dutch would variously fight against each other and fight with each other. And what the English found was that the Dutch were completely mental when they went into battle. Completely foolhardy, but very brave. And they worked out very quickly that they were in fact just drunk. They were loading up on what's now known as Geneva gin and running into the battle. So the British cottoned on to this pretty quick. If they were fighting against the Dutch, they overran a position, they would steal their gin. If they were fighting with the Dutch, they definitely still stole their gin. So the stuff that went back to the UK, the first gin that went back to the UK was coming back with sailors and soldiers. Now, as I said, politics was fairly fluid back then. So then the situation occurred that the English ended up with a Dutch king, so William of Orange, and the Dutch king said, look, you guys drink a lot of alcohol, there's a lot of beer being drunk back then. You had kids as young as 4 and 5 drinking beer because it was considered to be medicinal. They had some, obviously had some carbohydrates in it. Water was about as unsafe a thing you could drink as possible because you were talking about something that was exceptionally unhygienic. So beer was actually safer than water. But the Dutch king said, how come you guys don't drink gin? Fateful words. So UK, and in particular London, went from 0 to 800 distilleries in the space of about 5 years, and London became awash with gin. So, and this is the time where Mother's Ruin comes from. This is the time that the idea of gin being a depressant comes from. I think I'm living proof that gin is not a depressant. So what we have here is the gin craze was born, and there were all sorts of issues that came up behind it. If you want to, you're at home, you can Google a thing called Gin Lane by a guy called Hogarth. It's this picture of depravity. So it's you've got in the picture there's a man fighting a dog for a bone. Everyone's skinny, you can see their ribs. The only stores that are open are pawnbrokers and undertakers. It's a pretty depraved scene. So this was fairly iconic of what was going on in London in particular at this time. Government tried 3 ways to fix it. kind of echoes of today, I guess. There was no isolation in there, but there was a lot of other measures they tried. The first was taxation, which didn't work. 800 distilleries. They said, how much have you sold today? I don't know, none. So that didn't work. They waited 10 years. They tried prohibition. Prohibition lasted about a week because people rioted. And when they rioted, the riot basically, the chant at the riot was, no Dutch gin, no Dutch king. Monarchs are not big fans of that kind of chat, so that one got knocked on the head. The one that worked eventually was licensing. From there, gin was improved and gin started to be made from a neutral base in the UK, which is why it's different to Holland today. And that's where the typical London dry style came. So juniper heavy, neutral spirit redistilled in the presence of botanicals and not flavoured post-distillation. That's the basic definition for a London dry gin, juniper forward as well. So that's the gin that we're going to show you first. We're going to make a lovely, simple cocktail for you. This is an absolute favourite of mine. Now, things you should know. I am a distiller. I am not a bartender. So these things will be kept very simple. Guarantee you bartenders out there, don't laugh at my technique. Okay, so we will keep it nice and simple for you. And this is an absolute cracking spirit. So we have got old-fashioned glass. We are going to use Olds Young's 1829 gin. We are going to use Adelaide Hills Bitter Orange, which is a replacement for Campari. This is an all-Australian Negroni. And we're going to use Martini Sweet Vermouth. The absolute joy of this cocktail is its simplicity. Negroni, named after Count Negroni in Florence, real story, who it's basically an Americano, which is quite an old cocktail spiked with gin. So now we're talking about gin, Campari or an Amaro, and a sweet vermouth. So quite an old cocktail, going back to the sort of the 1920s through the 1940s. 1940s was the first time it was in a cocktail book with these three ingredients. So all I need for this one. Measure, the absolute joy of this one, I do need some ice, which I'm going to grab from here. Hopefully it is still cold. No, it's not here, it's over here. Hooray for live streaming. These guys are my absolute favourite. Talking about your lovely big ice blocks, we're going to actually put in 2. So, there we go. And simple as this. 30 mils of gin. This is the 1829 gin. This is our London dry style. What I would call my bright, fresh, hot summer day gin. This is a classic gin, very much in a traditional style, just dialed up with a lot of citrus. This is meant to be a gin you drink day after day after day, which right now is probably kind of appropriate. The next one we're going to use is Adelaide Hills Bitter Orange. Sasha is a good friend of mine from Adelaide Hills. We have a bad habit of getting naked together when we get together, so it's good that he's not here, but makes really, really good booze. It's just won a bunch of awards. This is his gin as well. So a little shout out to Sash. Hope you're watching. We're meant to be in the States together right now, ironically. And then we have got Martini, who is, this is an Australian vermouth. This is sweet vermouth. So dry vermouth, martinis, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but we've got a sweet vermouth. Vermouth's full of medicinal herbs, so this is like perfect for a little martini. Now this is where you do get to laugh at my bartending technique, but this is as simple as it is. This is a lovely little Negroni. We use this is again where you get to laugh at me. I'm going to use a little orange twist, orange on this. So we use orange in our, I need a knife, here is one. So try and get the pith off this if you can. We do this in the distillery all the time because we only use the skin and we don't want the pith in our gin. There is orange peel in this guy. So something like that. Don't laugh at me when it comes to my twist because I'm not good at it, but we're looking at something like that. And then we are going to twist, yoink, 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 and that pops into the glass, and we will give that to the birthday girl. So there we go, first cocktail done. How am I going for time? Not bad, excellent. So we're going to pack these three away. Really simple on that one, 30 mils of gin, 30 mils of an Amaro, so Campari is the classic, but you can find Australians like the bitter orange. And then you've got 30 mils of a sweet vermouth. So everything from your Martini Rossos through to things like Regal Rogue make a really good Australian vermouth. So do obviously Madinai. So Sean at Madinai is an absolute cracker of a bloke too. So now we are going to talk a little bit about different gins from around the world really quickly, and then we're going to walk into something made with an Australian gin. So in the UK, we've kind of described a classic London dry style. In Europe, you see a lot of gins made from fruit bases, so which the best description I've heard about this. So you do hear people talking about base and botanicals a bit in gin. Botanicals, just a fancy word for ingredients, okay? So if you think of your base spirit, so that's the alcohol or the base material that the alcohol's been made for before you make the gin. Think of the base as a canvas, and you think of the botanical as paints, right? So when you get your canvas, a neutral spirit, so like something like a wheat, which is what most gins are made from, or a cane base, that's a lovely white canvas. Then you get your paints, which your botanicals go nuts. If you use a fruit base, you're talking about a coloured canvas. The canvas is influenced by the base. So you've suddenly got to be a more clever painter to accommodate what's actually on the canvas already before you start going in with your paints. You can't just go and paint willy-nilly. So something like a fruit base, peach, apple, pear, that gets used in Europe a lot, they get incorporated into gins, and sometimes exceptionally well, and sometimes it can be a little bit dodgy. So if you go across the Atlantic to the US, not right now, but if you were going to go there a year ago, or as I said, I'm meant to be there now, then you're talking about, this is where craft gin and where a lot of experimentation with botanicals started to happen. So the US were a lot more open to using more ingredients, and they also were the first who really started to introduce the concept of locality to gin. So Bombay Sapphire proudly talks about the fact that they have their botanicals from all over the planet, and they've searched the globe for this. Whereas you had someone like St George Spirits who were talking about the fact that they were picking pine needles from out the back of their distillery. So that idea of locality is something that Australian gins have picked up and run with. Now, Australia has some natural advantages. We are an island, which right now I'm really happy about. But we have things that no one else has. We have plants that no one else has. We have ingredients that we can use in gin that no one else has. We have unique flora and fauna. Flora good in gin, fauna bad. But flora in our gin, so we have unique botanicals that no one else has. So, for example, in our Six Seasons gin, Six Seasons are based on the West Australian, the southwest of Western Australian Noongar calendar, which I've had very simply described to me as nice, cold, wet, hot, very hot, extremely hot. So, and that was by an Aboriginal elder. So this uses 6 native Australian botanicals. It has bushmint, desert lime, thryptomene flowers, juniper myrtle, lemon myrtle, sea parsley. Okay, might have said that once or twice in my life. But what we've got here is a very savoury gin. The first gin that I put up, bright, fresh, hot summer day, lots of citrus. This is savoury, herbal, earthy. Okay, so this one we're going to make a red snapper with. Now, if you don't know what a red snapper is, you need to. For my gin lovers out there, a red snapper is a Bloody Mary made with gin. As simple as that. Now, when you make a Bloody Mary with a herbal gin, it's a match made in heaven. So this one I'm going to probably butcher, but I will tell you the ingredients. So we're going to have some tomato juice, some passata, keep brands out, I don't know whether I'm meant to or not. We've got some Worcestershire sauce and Tabasco, which are both brands, well done me. And we're going to have some lemon juice. So, this is a recipe that was given to me by a guy who won World's Best Bartender. His name's Joe Schofield. He's an incredible guy. And he gave me the recipe for this. So, for this, I am going to use a little mixing jug. And we're going to go with 50 mils of our 50% Six Seasons gin. We are going to use, here we go. Hey, I get to use some of the equipment. Yay! Going to use some lemon juice. Alright, so I need 15 mils of that. Now the thing I love about this recipe is that he's really gone overboard with the ingredients. So 15 mils of Worcestershire, which is more than I've ever seen in a Bloody Mary recipe or a Red Snapper recipe, but is magnificent. All right, then a couple of dashes of Tabasco. And then we have salt and pepper, of course. My salt and pepper shakers, bought at Kitchen Warehouse, mind you. Here we go. Now we need tomato juice. Oh, here's one I prepared earlier. No, he didn't. Let's see if I can open this. It'd be embarrassing if I couldn't, and really annoying in the broadcast, but we got there. Sweet. So we need 37.5 mils. As I said, we will send this recipe out. Same thing. Now this is the magic ingredient, passata. So this is what gives your Bloody Mary or your Red Snapper that amazing, look at the mess I'm making, that amazing consistency. So exact same amount of your passata into the, and as I said, magic ingredient as given to us by Joe Schofield. Love him to death. Here we go. So, what else do I need? Not much. A little stirring spoon, that's back. Here we go. Now, this is enough to make one. This is a classic classic number. I personally, if I was making this home, would be making this at about 5 times the volumes, getting it up to about here, and then repouring. There's absolutely no issues with that. Keep it in the fridge and repouring. I'm going to grab some ice, which I need a little scoop. Ta-da! So we're going to use a highball for this. So here we go. A little bit more. Throwing ice around the place. Here we go. And then we are going to just, as simple as, do one more little stir. It's not going to fill. It was almost there. So again, hence bartender, distiller, not bartender. Then we want a lemon slice just to put on the top. I'm a bit of a fan, you can throw it on the side, but I'm actually a fan of actually dig it in so that you get some value for it. Again, as I said, so there we go. That is our Bloody Mary. Now, really quickly, because I've got the opportunity, Kitchen Warehouse don't know I'm going to do this, but I'm going to take the opportunity to do it anyway. There are a lot of people out there who are hurting. Australian distillers are definitely one of them, so I thought I would quickly take an opportunity so it's not all about me to show you my top 5 Australian gins. So I'm going to quickly introduce them to you. Got them all back here. Funnily enough, I've got them all. So the first is Manly Spirits, made up in New South Wales by Vanessa and David Whitaker. Absolute cracking gin, really bright, fresh, clean, beautifully packaged. We've got Holly at Bass and Flinders, female distiller, absolutely brilliant. Love everything that they do. They have a really interesting range of gins. The lads at Never Never, that's Tim and Sean and George. Magnificent big juniper forward gins. So if you love your juniper, that Never Never couldn't recommend any more. The guys from Animus, this one isn't open because it's batch 2 and I'm keeping it because I love these guys. So this is from Animus, the most handsome men in Australian distilling. So from Victoria. And then the final one, this is the big monster. This is from Prohibition. Wes is a naughty boy, but makes bloody good gin. And this is 60-something%. What did you make it? Where'd you go, Wes? It is 60% exactly. So this is a little Shiraz barrel gin, but they also make a range of other gins, known because they take up the most space on any bottle shop shelf of anyone in Australia. So they are my top 5 Australian gins. Shout out to all the boys, to Wes, to the guys at Animus, to the boys at Never Never, to Holly at Monsoon, and to David and Ness at Manly Spirits. Thank you for indulging me, but there you go, you've got some extra ideas for your gin cabinet. Right, I will clear away the Bloody Mary, send that to someone else to drink that. Here we go.
Delicious, thank you. I can't wait to taste this. I love a Bloody Mary, and it's my birthday, so I get to enjoy.
So the last one we're going to do is we're going to have a tiny little chat about different styles of gin from around the world. Oh, look at that. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to tell you one story. How are we going? We're going okay for time. I've got it. Oh, I need an extra word too. I've used one, by the way. One's in there already. It's 2 to go, and I need someone give me this. Oh, hello. Oh, it's one hidden inside as well. All right, done. I've got 2 more. Right. So one's in, 2 to go. So there's different styles. There's a lot of different types of gin. So you'll see slow gins. You will see pink gins. Now, pink gin. If I was going to start my rant about pink gin, we wouldn't ever finish this. But true pink gin is gin, tonic, and a little dash of bitters. But you do see a lot of flavoured gins coming into the market. Some are good, some are awful. Be careful out there. Watch out for the ones that are just loaded with sugar. But you do also get barrel-aged gins made by a lot of whiskey makers who can't help themselves. They have to put something. Hey, speaking of barrel-aged, that's our little barrel of Negroni that we've got ticking away at the distillery. We are going to start releasing a little batch of bottled cocktails this week. So the first is Negroni. There is Negroni in here right now. I can probably demonstrate it. Look at that. Yay! Let's see if this works on camera. There it is. So that is our Negroni. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yes. So, oh, it's good. But the style of gin that I want to talk to you about last is Navy strength gin. Now, Navy strength gin, we're back to the 1700s again, but it's the British Navy used to be paid, part of their pay was actually in gin. So they would receive 285 mils, half a pint of gin every day at lunchtime, at midday, every single day. That was part of it, so it's roughly about 10 shots, right? But back then, the sailors were paid in rum, the officers were paid in gin, and the sailors were always worried that the officers would water down their rum, so they developed this incredibly intelligent / insane method of checking. And what they would do is they would get gunpowder and they would roll it out on the deck or lay it out on the deck, and then they would get rum and they would soak it in the rum, and then they would try and light it. And if the gunpowder exploded, it meant that they had a good strength rum. Never mind the fact they were on wooden boats and they couldn't swim, but in good news, full strength rum. So that tradition, and it was only 100 years later that they worked out exactly what that percentage was, and it's 57%. So if a gin, so remembering the officers drank gin, sailors drank rum, so you only see Navy strength rums and gins, right? So with my gin and my Navy strength, I decided that I would make one that shows off the Tuscan juniper that we have with our gin. So all of our gin's made from Tuscan juniper. We're the only Australian distiller that has it. And so we wanted to show that off. So this is a Navy strength, so 57.5, because I'd hate for the gunpowder not to go off. Gin that's made with 100% juniper. There's only 2 or 3 of them in the world, but I thought today, given the fact that with the situation we're in, that we would make a little quarantini to finish. So my theories with the 3 gins, the 1829 is a Sun Still Up martini, the 6 Seasons is a dinner time martini, and this is a 11 p.m. we're going to solve the problems of the world martini. So we're going to finish off with a little quarantini made with the common. So martinis are, again, something nice and simple. Now you hear about wet and dry martinis. What does that mean? It comes down to the amount of vermouth that you're adding. So you get people who get exceptionally snobby about this. So a dry martini has less vermouth, a wet martini has more. So you hear about all these stories about Churchill used to just literally fill a tumbler, face Italy, nod, and that was enough. And that was enough vermouth for him. There are stories about people calling out the bar next door and getting them to hold the hold the vermouth up to the phone, and that's enough. Or a little ray of light through the vermouth onto the glass is another one for making them exceptionally dry. I tend to go the other way. So for me, we're going to go with a reasonably wet martini. Remember again, vermouth, full of medicinal herbs. So again, in the times we're in, I think that having a little bit of extra vermouth in there is going to be very tasty. So, I forgot to garnish. You've finished. But now we're going to show you off for having finished. Yoink! Ta-da! What we're going to do with this one, we do still have one clean pourer, so that's great. So, get this nice and simple. Another Boston jug. Get that out for a sec. We're going to need a lot of ice in this case. Yoink. Again, obviously, you don't have to have these jugs. If you've got any kind of jug at home, it will do. So, this one, we're going to go with 50 mils of the Navy Strength Gin. We're going to go with 15 mils, so we're going 4-to-1 on this, of the vermouth. This is going to stir that down. Hey, new bar spoon. Thank you, kitchen warehouse. This is where we find out that I'm not a bartender. You got to do it as long as you wash your hands. Sing happy birthday twice, all right, people? I don't know if that's true, I just made that up. So, the absolute joy. Hey, I need a strainer. Almost cooked it. How good are martinis? It's as simple as that. So, this one today, again, we're going to use something with a little bit of antioxidants in it. So we're going to use a little bit of grapefruit peel. So lemon twist is a classic. Obviously olive, if it's me and I'm using olives, I'm a big fan of 2 olives. I'm coming back. So I'm a big fan of 2 olives, one for the start, one for the finish. One doesn't quite seem enough, but we are going to try and not cook this twist. And again, take a little bit of the pith off the back because it's quite bitter. And then we twist. I'm not even going to pretend to try and spritz this. Something like that. That actually doesn't look that bad. Look at that. There we go. Cheers. It's not the most festive of times, but it's certainly something that I think some of us all need at this time. And actually, for someone, as a birthday celebration.
It's festive for me.
There you go.
Thanks, James.
There we go. Happy birthday once again.
Thank you.
Now that's going to be about me. I've got to dig something out of my bag. Humour me. I've got something to finish on. So, where did it go? I hope it's still here.
Hey,
Right.
James, can I ask you,
Sure.
was that a dry vermouth?
Yes, it was. Yes. So the first one we used a sweet vermouth. This is a dry vermouth. Oh, we got questions. I'm looking forward to that. We can do my little finishing bit at the end. But if we've got any questions, I'm super keen to ask.
This may be a long one and you may want to answer it later. How do you distill gin?
Good question. So let's do it the really simple way. So alcohol boils at 78 degrees and water boils at 100. So you put all of your alcohol in the pot. the alcohol will boil before the water. So when you're distilling, that's the basics of, you've got a kettle, you've got a column, and that's the basics. And so the alcohol vapor rises first, and then it gets cooled down and you collect it. When you make a gin, when I was talking about botanicals, all of those botanicals go into the pot, and then you're boiling in the presence of the botanicals, and then it comes up the column. Alcohol holds flavour better than water does. As a molecule, it carries flavour molecules over better. So the alcohol that comes over is what creates your gin, and then you're just cutting it from around about 80% down to the 3 gins we've had today at 45%, 50%, and 57.5%. So it's literally collecting the vapour from what you boil in the pot.
Okay, so you've had lots of compliments. The Martini Whisperer said, "Go James." Is he a friend?
Yes, he is, and I stole part of that recipe from him, and so a big shout out to Philip. I much appreciate it, and very smart man, very dapper man.
Oh, dapper.
Yes.
Charlotte and lots of other people are saying it's their favourite stop in the valley.
Thank you.
And okay, there's a few questions about delivery, which I know you. How are we going with delivery? Someone wanted to know if you deliver to London. There are people talking about us and yourself, obviously, in New Zealand. They're in quarantine and they would like to know.
Okay, so in Australia we are still delivering. We're able to deliver interstate and locally. And our website, so www.oldyoungs.com.au. There's the bottle shop link, and you can buy from us there. That's within Australia. Within the UK, you can hopefully still buy from us, though it may have sold out by now, from a website called masterofmalt.co.uk, though I suspect they might have been reasonably busy lately. If you're in New Zealand, unfortunately, we can't get it to you. But let me think who I like in New Zealand. Regal Rogue, really good. Lighthouse is alright. Sounds like a sledge. Lighthouse is actually really good too. Have a chat to the guys from New Zealand Whiskey who make amazing whiskey as well.
Can you give yourself a plug too? Because a lot of people are asking where you're based.
Okay, yeah, I meant to do that at the start and I always forget. So, Olds Young's, it's in the Swan Valley. It's about 30 minutes from where we are right now in Osborne Park. And so just outside the CBD of Perth, so obviously in WA. But we get a lot of visitors from all over Australia, all over the world actually. So if we can get booze to you, we would absolutely love to.
One of our favourite people, Jodie, she wants to know your favourite tonic. Oh,
good question. Cappy is Australian and they make really good stuff, so their dry tonic and their regular tonic are really good. If you're lucky enough to find the stuff from PS40 or Strangelove, both Australian tonics as well, very, very good. Otherwise, obviously you can't go too far past our Fever Tree as well. Don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with a Gordon's and Schweppes at times. Like it doesn't have to be incredibly fancy all the time, but yeah, for me, the Australian tonics if possible, Australian gins if possible, but look, desperate times, desperate measures.
And I think our last question for the moment, we can answer the rest online, but why is the Bloody Mary not shaken?
Oh, okay, so anytime you shake, that basically equals dilution. So by shaking, while it does make it lovely and cold, you're also creating dilution, because the more you shake, obviously, the more water melts and it goes into solution. So for me, I like them to be nice and strong. You've got a lot more control over the quality, over the mixture that you've got by stirring it down rather than shaking.
Perfect. And then there's all talk about how great your juniper gin is.
So that's this guy. This is the common gin. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that's probably... Oh, hang on, we've got one more. Oh, don't forget to mention all your delicious vodkas as well.
Gin masterclass, but yes, we are still making Pavlova vodka. For those of you who love that, it's still available. We can still get it out to you. Yes, we have the smoked. There's going to be cocktails with both the smoked and the Pav coming out, hopefully later this week. But yes, the vodkas are still there too.
And we also have that recipe on our blog, with your Pavlova.
What did you say? This Pavlova vodka?
Yes.
Oh, that one. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
All right.
In a little bit. So I think we can all say that was a great success, and thank you to James for joining us. I'm actually going to try and convince him to show you guys how to make one of these in a second, and we'll post it maybe next week for our happy hour on Friday. Make sure you're following us on all the socials like Facebook, Instagram. We're going to be posting this on YouTube as well, and yeah, it'd be really great if you guys, if you're cooking with your kids, we know they're all home, you've probably become a home economics teacher in the last week and a PE teacher and everything else. Please show us what you're cooking, tag us in, we'd love to see it, and we've got lots of great things coming up this week, and we love to hear from you. We love that we're all in this together. So thank you to James. Hopefully we'll have him in the stores again soon, and we love you guys all being a part of it. Thank you.